Yo, what's going on, Kicks Army? I'll be showing you guys how to draw the Nike Lebron 16 step by step. And after the drawing process is done, I'm going to be giving you guys some art tips, and then after that I'm going to be talking about the future of the channel. I talk about this like every week, but when you make a new video every day, it's very easy for the future to catch up real quick. Don't forget that all the stencils in my videos, including the stencil for this sneaker, are all available on my website, KicksArt.com. That is your #1 source for free sneaker stencils because there's well over 215 stencils on the site. And if there is a stencil that you want to see added to the website that's not already available, you can send in a request through the contact tab at the top of the page. Don't forget that I have a complete playlist of well over 60 how to draw sneaker videos, so if you guys are interested in this kind of content, make sure you check it out. I have a link at the very end of the video. And if you guys like these how to draw videos, make sure you hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bounce past that bell to get post notifications. Now with all that being said, let's get it. You guys already know that before we can go ahead and draw the sneaker, we have to set up our guidelines to make sure the shoe is going to come out proportionally correct. To do this, we're going to draw two squares right next to each other, and afterward we're going to divide those two squares into top and bottom halves. Next, we're going to add two vertical lines. One's going to be on that bottom right hand quadrant, and the other one is going to be on the initial left box. Finally, we're going to add one more horizontal line, dividing the two bottom quadrants into halves, and this will give us all the guidelines we need to draw out the rest of the sneaker. As usual, I like to kind of start with the silhouette of the sneaker. It usually makes it easier for me to fill in the rest of the inside details. You're going to notice that the very top of the tongue kind of extends past that top baseline that we have. With all the lines they're going to see me draw, it's very important to notice where I place the lines in relation to where we have the guidelines. The trickiest part of this sneaker by far is the outsole, and it's not even really that bad. You can use that last horizontal line that we placed as your guide because most of the outsole should really sit underneath that line. It really only goes above that line towards the heel and the toe. Now we're going to go ahead and distinguish where those three air units are going to be. And once the outsole is pretty much done, we can go ahead and we can start working on the rest of the sneaker. I recommend working on that back panel first. It's basically a giant triangle, but notice how that flows all the way up into the pull tab. After we place down the Nike swoosh, which is going to be in the center of that section, we're going to go ahead and distinguish the tongue from the rest of the upper. Now we can go ahead and start filling in the laces. Then once we have the laces filled in and we've already distinguished the tongue as well as the rest of the sock liner, we can start filling in the details on the upper. The upper is very simple in nature. We basically have a whole bunch of slanted lines, and we have two kinds of widths. We have thicker lines and then we have thinner lines that are right next to each other, and it's a pattern that continues all the way through. Then once we start getting closer to the toe, we see lines go in the opposite direction. Basically be three sets of those thicker lines being perpendicular, and then we start to see those lines convert into L brackets, and then those L brackets continue in motion all the way towards the toe of the shoe. Now in terms of how many of these thick lines that you need, because those thin lines really sit in between the thick lines naturally, don't really worry about that too much because you're going to get too stressed out if you get the exact number. I would say anywhere between 10 and 13 of those thick lines that are slanted that extend from that midpoint all the way towards the heel. Then you would have 3 more of those thick lines that are perpendicular to that first row that we have. Then from there, you're pretty much adding in those L brackets that extend all the way to the toe of the shoe. Again, don't really worry about the number. Once you have a width for the thickness that you think looks appropriate, you just want to stay with that. Because at the end of the day, nobody's going to be like, hey, you are missing one of those thick lines. How could you do such a thing? As long as the general shape of the upper is intact with those lines in the direction in which they're going, you're pretty much good. Like, you don't have to overcomplicate it. And honestly, if you don't want to have to deal with the stress of adding those lines, if you want to just keep the upper blank, then go ahead, keep the upper blank. Do whatever you want to do. It's your drawing. It makes it a lot easier for you just to leave the upper blank and you can just fill in that space with whatever design you want. I say go ahead. Since I try to keep the integrity of the design of the sneaker intact, we do have to go ahead and add those lines since it is relevant to the design of the shoe. Obviously in this stage, you're kind of seeing that I'm going through and I'm inking everything on my black micron marker. Again, if you can't find these markers or if they're a little bit too expensive, you can always use ultrafine black Sharpies and that works just fine. You can find those ultrafine Sharpies over at places like Walmart and other retailers. It should be in the same section where the regular Sharpies are at, and it should be very common to find. I think it's like $2, maybe $3 for like a pack of 2 or 3, so it's really inexpensive. Whereas the micron markers are about a few bucks per marker, but the thing I like about those as opposed to the ultrafine Sharpies is that with the micron markers, there's a varying widths that you can get. So for example, for a lot of the detailing that I do when it comes to the actual outline of the sneaker, I'll use a 0.5 millimeter and that'll pretty much get everything pretty good. However, if it's finer detail like stitching or something else that's very fine, I'll go ahead and I'll use the 0.20. And there's other sizes in between like 0.25, 0.35, but if you're gonna go with the micron markers, just pick whatever size you think would work best for you. Really, the 0.20 millimeter and the 0.45 millimeters are all I really need since it achieves whatever goal I have. But the point is, when you use these ultra fine Sharpies or the micron markers, it just looks a lot cleaner in terms of outlining as opposed to using a regular Sharpie, which naturally is just really thick when it applies. And in terms of my strategy for the upper, and I really wish I would have spent more time on this, but the drawing already took well over an hour as it is, and I don't want to spend too much time recording these videos because then it would take too long to go ahead and edit and upload. It's not that I couldn't do that, but when you're doing a new video every day, you kind of want to restrict on how much time you spend on working on these videos, otherwise I wouldn't have time to do really anything else. My strategy for the upper was those thicker lines, right? That's going to be a lighter gray, and those thinner lines are going to be a darker gray. Once I had that foundation of those two colors set, the first thing I did is I added a bunch of dots with my micron marker, so that way it adds a little bit of a texture to it. I went with my darker gray and I pretty much added a whole bunch of strokes all in between those thicker lines. Following that up, I pretty much went through with the lighter gray again, kind of touched up some of the edges. And I went back to the micron marker, I added a bunch of regular black strokes just to kind of give it a little bit of differentiation in the color. And after I have all those black strokes through, I go through and I have a white gel pen. You can find gel pens in your local art supply store or any place that really has any kind of crafting. I added a bunch of those lines through, and that pretty much made up the upper, so that way there's a lot of different colors going on in terms of grays, and it still has some of that texture look. Not the easiest thing to accomplish, I'll admit, because you have to have the appropriate supplies, but then again, when it comes to these uppers where it has that fly knit kind of look, not going to be something that's easy to execute when we're dealing with markers, because markers is very unforgiving in terms of color. If we were using colored pencils, there's a lot of different wiggle room in there to go ahead and achieve whatever we want, but when it comes to markers, naturally it's just a lot more difficult. At least for me, one of my goals is to get a lot better with these drawings, and that's going to take some time, but I have a feeling over the course of a year, like my art style should drastically improve. Let's go ahead and let's start talking about some of the future updates I have for KicksArt. First thing is, and I really don't like putting this kind of stuff out there because it creates expectations, and I really like to try to keep those expectation levels really low so that way it's very easy to jump over them. But what I'm considering doing, and the only reason why I'm saying this because I just finished my school semester, so that way I actually have some time to actually think about the channel, is because there are certain days where I'm doing a sneaker drawing and I already have that stencil uploaded to the website, and I don't want to go ahead and I want to repeat the same view of the stencil over and over again. So what I'm thinking about doing is, besides the two new stencils that I'm already doing, I'm considering having, like, on those days where I'm doing a stencil that's already been done, adding an alternate view for that stencil. Because the ultimate goal is to have multiple views of all the stencils on the website, so that way if you're doing any sneaker at all, you can find either the side view or like a lateral view or whatever you want. Especially over the course of next year when I'm doing 2 videos a day, ideally for the entire year, that is bound to happen, so I'm not really too worried about it. But in terms of the video, I want you guys to feel like every video you see is at the very least something new. So if I find myself doing like 4 or 5, let's say LeBron 16s for example, obviously this would be an exception, but if I'm doing that, it should be alternate view. So a side view where you see 2 of the sneakers, maybe a side view from the other direction, just different things like that. Again, don't really hold me accountable to that because I don't want you guys to say, hey, you said you were going to do different side views, it's the same view. Obviously there are going to be days where it's a lot easier to go ahead and stick with the stencil that I have, but on days when I can afford it, I'll try to add new stencils to the website of the same sneakers that I already have. Again, don't quote me on this, but that's just something I've been thinking about personally. And the second thing, and this might actually be very interesting for those who watch my content a lot, especially those who watch every single day, I love you guys by the way, is I'm considering bringing back the live streams, but I'm trying to make it a weekly thing. Starters, it would either be on like a Friday, a Saturday, or Sunday. Most likely it would be like a Friday night kind of thing, and it wouldn't be the drawings. I would be doing digital illustrations. I'd be doing it on OBS, and I wouldn't be recording it the same way I did before where I had my phone recording the screen, because even though that does technically work, like, let's be real, that's not the best viewing experience, especially not in 2018. Like maybe 10 years ago that'd be okay, but now that's just ridiculous. I haven't experimented with live streaming like that, so I would have to do some research to make sure that I can go ahead and execute and I have all the things that I would need to do it right. But if all goes well, this is my plan. So I would have my video uploaded for Friday as usual, okay? And then Friday night there would be a live stream. Maybe it'd be like, 2 hours long, depending on how much detail I want to put in the shoe and depending on what shoe it is in the first place. And then I would upload like a condensed version of that would be the video that'd be uploaded on Saturday. I personally like doing the live streams, and especially if I can get that done right, oh my god, it'd be so much fun. At least for me, it'd be a lot of fun. We give us a lot of time to talk one-on-one, so you guys can ask me questions, we can just have a conversation. It'd be a good time overall. But let me know what you guys think about that, and if I get a lot of good responses, I may consider doing that like starting this Friday. So make sure you leave your comments down below in the comments section. But that's going to do it for today's video. If you guys enjoy these daily sneaker drawing videos, make sure you leave a like, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bounce past that bell to get post notifications. Don't forget to visit KicksArt.com for all your sneaker stencil needs. And guys, like I said, I have a full playlist of how to draw videos. I'm gonna link at the very end in just a second, and I also have it on my channel, so go ahead and check it out. Y'all already know that I'm uploading daily sneaker drawing videos. So that being said, I will see you guys tomorrow. Yay!